There were three main civilizations in Mesopotamia. Sumer was the first. Ancient Sumer was made up of city-states, area of city supported by local countryside. Sumer existed from about 3500 BC, with Ur being the largest city in the area. It is interesting to note that the kings were usually high priests as well.
My grandfather says that in the old days, most everybody had to work at farming the land. But not anymore. We Sumerians got so good at growing food, some people could quit farming and let others grow enough for everybody. Of course, you had to be neighbors for that to work. So people settled down close to each other in villages. And the villages grew into city-states. Each city-state has its own king, and each one is sacred to one of the gods. My city-state is called Nippur. It's on the banks of the Euphrates River, and it's the most holy city in all of Sumer. Nippur is sacred to the god Enlil, our greatest god. His temple, the ziggurat, is right in the middle of the city. Our ziggurat is named Eduranki, which means the house binding heaven and earth. The ziggurat is a huge square building, sort of like a pyramid. It's made of several layers, or stories. As you go higher up, each story is smaller than the one below. The very top story is the temple, where the god lives. Around the ziggurat are houses where the wealthy people live, like priests and merchants, for instance. They live in two-story houses. Further away from the temple are one-story houses where shopkeepers and craftspeople live. And beyond them live the farmers and fishermen. All the land outside the city belongs to the city-state too, but most people live inside the city walls. We are very good at making bricks out of mud. That's a good thing because there's a lot of mud here. We gather a bunch of mud, pat it into square molds, and bake the mud bricks in the sun until they're dry. We use them to make all of our buildings. Here's my house. My family lives in one of the two-story houses close to the ziggurat. That's because my dad works for the king. My mom runs the house. Our slaves do the actual work, but my mom supervises them. They prepare meals, keep the house clean, and do other household chores. Mother also weaves beautiful cloth to make clothing. Her cloth is made of fine wool from our own sheep. She sells a lot of it to the traders' caravans. My younger sisters help my mom spin yarn and weave cloth. But I begged my dad to send me to tablet school. I'm learning to write so I can be a scribe. It's a really important job. There are a lot of other jobs in Sumer, like being a potter or a fisherman. Some people grind grain into flour and brew beer. Some are traders, and some just play music. Hey, that wouldn't be so bad. But it would be bad to be a slave. Some slaves were captured in war, and others became slaves because they owed money. They have to work for 3 years, often in the grain fields, and then they are set free. Besides the king and his family, the people with the highest positions are the priests. They care for the gods and make sure they're happy.
Babylon was the next large civilization. The Babylonians ruled from about 2000 BC. They are famous for the Hanging Gardens. Hammurabi was a very famous Babylonian king. He had his laws written down into the Code of Hammurabi. It is said that ancient Babylon was one of the most advanced cities in the world. The ruins are in modern-day Iraq. Our servicemen can be seen around these famous sites even today. The Assyrians followed the Babylonians. They were a military society. Their kings were not priests but soldiers. They used weapons with iron points or tips. They fought in horse-drawn chariots. The Assyrians were feared because they would capture enemies and sell them as slaves or have them killed. The Assyrians had been known to completely destroy cities. The Assyrians maintained an empire and ruled over many groups. They would exact a tribute, or annual tax, from all its citizens. Get this. The city of Nineveh, made famous by the story of Jonah and the whale, even had a library. How advanced was that? Dot, dot, dot. As we already said, the Assyrians were feared by all. Here is what one of the Assyrian kings has to say about his accomplishments. I destroyed them, tore down the walls, and burned the towns with fire. I caught the survivors and impaled them on stakes in front of their towns. Ouch! That must have hurt.